Hey, what's up? We are back with another episode of the CEO Pulse podcast where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. I'm very excited today because I have somebody from actually back home, somebody from my hometown, and he's one of the living legends back home, Mr. Giber Becerra. Thanks for stopping by, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Rafa. That's a great intro. Hope to live to the standards on your show, and I'm really glad I'm here with you, and I feel really delighted. That's the right word. Um, to have somebody also from the same background, we can share a lot of experiences, and it's a great opportunity to to talk and let other people know that it's gonna sound like a cliche, but it's the real deal. If you work hard, if you're patient, if you're diligent, if you're persistent, if you're hungry, to leave a legacy, then I guess this talk can help somebody. And I'm still in the process. I'm not saying that I've made it, because I don't think you ever make it. Some places, like, you keep breaking ground and you keep tearing apart obstacles, and but you're never gonna make it somewhere.
Yeah.
If you think about it that way, it's just you keep on growing, you keep on finding that best version of yourself, which is what I'm all about. And yeah, this is, I guess, we're gonna share some
It's
experiences.
part of the evolution, right? Well, I just want to highlight a couple of big things because I mean, what you're doing is it's amazing in itself, and knowing the background, the stuff that you had to go through in terms of mindset, in terms of personal growth, self accountability, and having all those strengths build up within you. I mean, that's no it's no easy task, right? So you've crushed it along the way. You're a high performance coach for top athletes, and that's at a big scale. So and you're talking about the men's national soccer team for Mexico. You've been, you've taken them through the World Cup in Brazil. Now, one of the top teams in the country as well, with Las Águilas, and I mean, just so much behind it. And it's not just the physical endurance that goes into it. I know that you tap a lot into the mindset, into the psychology of the player, and especially in a space that's that highly as competitive as as a professional league. I mean, that's something that I can't wait to tap into. So yeah, I mean, I want to hear it in your own words. Give us a little bit of a perspective of how you got started and how you kind of became the person that you are now.
Well, I'm still becoming, right?
Hmm.
I don't want to talk about in terms of just an end result or a product. I guess we keep evolving, like you mentioned. I like the words of, or the methodology, or I guess not the methodology, but the concept of Nick Saban, from the coach from Alabama. Focus on the process
Hmm.
and not the results. And to me, that's been a great asset to my mindset, because most of the time we're just focused on just, all right, the results. I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to make $1 million and this and that. And you forget the journey, which
Hmm.
is, to me, that's the most gratifying thing. Yes, lifting a trophy and being places and getting results, that's very rewarding, right? And I love it, but it only lasts maybe a few hours, and then you're just looking into what's next, right?
The curse of
So
the achiever.
exactly. I mean, and it's a never ending process, and I like that. A lot of people get depressed or frustrated or anxious. Like, shit, I already got to where I wanted, like a peak of something, a peak of a mountain or whatnot. But behind that mountain, there's gonna be more mountains to
Hmm.
climb, and that's part of the journey. And the result that you're looking for is only gonna last for a very short time, but the whole journey, it's a lot longer, right? And you got to enjoy that journey. Today, I guess we're going to be filled with a lot of cliches, and they're
Hmm.
cliches because they're true. You know, so the journey is where it's at. Because you're going to fall down, you're going to be covered on sweat, on blood, or blood, and as a figure of speech. And that to me is the most satisfying thing of, what we do as human beings. Like Paulo Coelho, great author, The Alchemist, and some other books, he mentions, and
Favorite
I
book.
really like, this concept of his, or a mental model, mental framework: wear your scars as medals.
Mm.
Wear your scars as medals. And I want to go to, until the end of my days, um, with a lot of scars. Some physical, of course, some emotional. Lots of different scars, because that to me, it's like you live life. Nobody told you about it. You didn't read it
Hmm.
on some book. It's like you tried it, but you made a. I don't know if I can curse here, but
Oh, you're good. You are good.
I don't know if it's rated PG or something.
It's
No,
rated entrepreneurship. We all curse.
I mean, I want to go to the end of my days with, filled with scars, and nobody told me about it. I lived it.
Hmm.
And a lot of people, unfortunately, they just, they're alive, but they're not living. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Um, and I try to, um, just live life. Live at the moment, enjoy it. Obviously, in this type of atmosphere, it's a very high competitive. There's a lot of stakes. There's a lot of things on the line. You're always going to be exposed. Commonly, you're not going to see like a fitness coach or a performance coach like myself, however you want to label me. I don't care about the labels. It's just a label. Um, you're not going to see them a lot on the light, right? For example, you're mainly going to see like a player. Obviously, they're the protagonists. You're going to see the coach, but you're never going to see like a fitness coach. People who work, behind the scenes, get so much attention. The past couple of years, I've been getting a lot of attention from the media. A lot of attention through my social media outlets. Uh, a lot of them good, a lot of them, not so good. And it's part of it. And I
Hmm.
enjoy it. I'm going to get criticized like I always do, where you're doing good things, bad things, but you shouldn't live on the extremes, right? Of like, man, you're the best in the world or you're the worst in the world. I mean, because none of them will serve you to what you want to accomplish in life.
Hmm.
So I guess you got to live with in what Aristotle calls, I guess, the virtuous mean, right? Not here, not there, because you can see both sides of the coin, or you can get blinded, or you can get some fog up here on your brain, you know, thinking you're too good, to be able to, open yourself up to learning new things or mastering new
Oh
things or
yeah.
polishing your craft. Or the other side of the coin, thinking that you're the worst person in the world because you lost the game, or you made a mistake. I mean, none of them will serve you to so you can to to keeping yourself on track of what you're looking for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the I think the minute that you start drinking your own juice, it the power for growth or the potential for growth really stops. You start
Yeah.
thinking that you know it all, and you're the best at your craft. There's always going to be somebody better at different levels, right? But the minute that we start buying into that story where, oh, you know what, I know it all, I've dominated this thing, and you start drinking your own juice, that's when you stop expanding your perspective, I think. And I think perspective is one of the biggest things that allows us to get creative, to to stay driven and motivated through challenges.
Yeah, correct. You've mentioned something that's right on the point: perspective. Um, there's on one occasion, the owner of Las Águilas and a lot of other big companies such as Televisa. Um, he was talking to us about a story about one of his friends who brought somebody. I guess he was from Peru, and he was a fan of Las Águilas somehow. South America to all the way to North America. He liked
Mhm.
Club America, and he wanted to get to go to a game and and visit Estadio Azteca, the Aztec Stadium, which is a big emblematic stadium, culturally speaking as well, and,
Right.
for the whole country. He was talking about how, this guy, through a friend of his, is like, they made it happen. And when this guy came into the stadium, he was, astounded. He was, I don't know if it's the right word, but I mean, he was uh, enjoying the moment. You know, he was in awe, right, of the whole situation, just kind of taking it in. And he said, you should never lose that uh, possibility or that concept of being astounded by something, being in awe, right? And sometimes you can lose some perspective. So, for example, for me, it was like a day-to-day thing, being, oh, well, back in the office, I'm here
Mm.
another day at Stake Stadium, whatever. Or, I'm here and it's like a regular job. But for a
Yeah.
lot of people, it's not like a regular job. And I never took it that way. I try to ground myself. Every time I go into a Stake Stadium, I take perspective, from where I came from. One day I was, watching the games on TV, and wishing that someday, I could just kind of get close enough to just smell the grass. And I was there, right? And I try not to lose that perspective, um, because it just grounds you, right? Don't ever, lose that, I guess, that idea of being just astounded by something, just the basic things. For example, just being alive, moving my fingers, being grateful, for what you do have, and also for what you don't have, right? Because a lot of times it's like we become bitter because we don't have that thing yet, right? And you live miserably. I don't have $1 million on the bank account. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't have the Ferrari or whatnot. That's all that's all bullshit, right? Gotta be, I have something from Federico Nietzsche. Amor fati. It's love what is, right? The love of
Mm.
your fate. So don't wish you were something else, or don't wish you were somewhere else, or that you had this or that you had that. Be I don't want to say be mediocre about the situation, because Amor Fati says that. Amor Fati, to me, it's like love your fate. Love the circumstances right now. Work with what you have at the moment. Yes, keep fighting for what you're looking for, but now in this moment, this is what you got, man. Don't wish for something else. This is what you got. Oh, I wish I was this. I wish I was that. Dude, this is what you got right now. So stop the bullshit. Quit whining, quit complaining, quit making excuses, quit victimizing yourself, and just get it done, man. Get it done, because nobody else is gonna do it for you. You're not in a Hollywood movie where the superhero comes and saves the day for you. That's not gonna happen, man. You gotta make it
Yeah.
happen, and that's pretty much it. So when I did realize that I was 100% responsible for my own life, you know it doesn't taste good, because there was a lot of shit in my life, like there still is at the moment, that I didn't like. And I was like, fuck, I'm 100% responsible. Yes, take
Yeah.
100% responsibility. Be the CEO of your life first and foremost, right? You gotta,
Absolutely. Yeah.
to be likable, you gotta like yourself. To love somebody else unconditionally, you gotta love yourself unconditionally, right? But it all starts with yourself. You gotta learn to be happy on your own skin. And if you don't like it, just appreciate the fact that you don't like it. That's fine. It sounds kind of funny and contradictory. Like the fact that you're an idiot, maybe you're an asshole, whatnot. But recognize that you don't want to be that person, because maybe you're not getting results with that. I guess model of yourself, and change it. But I mean, first you got to realize that you have issues, like we all do, right? It's nothing, there's no secret formula. We all have issues. We all have our dark sides, like Robert Greene, the author, talks about in his book, The Laws of Human Nature. We all have that dark side, right? that's fine. Realize that you do have, like Michael Jordan, he has his dark side. LeBron James, he has his dark sides. We all do. Sometimes we hide them or whatnot, but I mean, you can't hide them from yourself. You can go to an island, be there
Yeah.
by yourself, but you can hide from others, but you're never going to be able to hide from yourself. So you got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, let's make shit happen, or you make the decision to hide from yourself, and that's what a lot of people do, right?
Yeah, I think I mean, so many golden nuggets right there. I think it comes down to awareness, being aware of the things that are not serving you. It's one of the biggest things, right? You mentioned a book, The Alchemist. I think that's my top number one book that I like. I mean, out of psychology, pragmatic books, technical books, and everything, I always keep going back to that book. And there's this one really, really cool concept in there talking about your personal legend. And that's actually something that I gave thought to for a long, long time. And what's my personal legend? It just resonated with me, and sitting there and thinking about what I wanted my personal legend to be. And that's really, I mean, that's your truth. What type of person are you at an essence? If you were, standing in the middle of an island and you had, didn't have to impress anybody, you didn't have to put up a post or didn't have to get approval or validation or any of that bullshit from anybody else. Who would you be? What type of person would you be, right? So after you start dropping all this dead weight from your back, you end up with this essence of you, this this idea of things, or collection of things, or emotions that make you happy. And then if you stick to your truth and you find your truth that way, and you operate from your truth, everything else starts making sense. One of those things for me was responsibility. Assuming responsibility, and man, that's a burden. It's at first, right? You sit with it,
Right.
you're like, holy shit, yeah. If it goes right, it's my fault. If it goes wrong, it's also my fault. But it's, at the end of the day, it's all about taking responsibility for the actions, for the course of my life. And the moment that you start doing that, it's like you're standing and at the fork in the road. You can either continue on with the same bullshit that you've been living with, if that's the case, right? Or you can really make a decision, because now you have the awareness. You can't lie to anybody else, but you cannot lie to yourself. And you can sit there and start changing those things about you, and taking those actions, building new habits, just creating a new overall environment of how you process things. Even your thought process changes after 6 months of sticking to things that you're not used to doing. We just get rewired.
Right.
And yeah, and it's huge. I mean, understanding that the journey is really what's the juice of life. The point is not the point is one of the biggest things that kind of sank in last year. And I mean, yeah, just it's an overall game changer once you sit and look at things from that perspective.
Yeah, you're right on point. I mean, it's a game changer, taking full responsibility of your life. There's a great book by Jocko Willink. I don't know if
Oh, yeah.
I chopped out the name.
Jocko
Extreme
Willink.
Ownership. That's really powerful. I bought books for for our team out here in Spanish. Fortunately, they do have them, and we talk about it. Decentralized command. A lot of cool concepts based on that book. It talks about taking full responsibility for your own shit, and it's easy at any level, the highest level or whatnot, to just blow responsibility off, and blaming somebody else. Because remember, when you're pointing your finger to somebody else, there's 3 other fingers pointing at your own direction, and we all know that.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's difficult, it's difficult to just kind of look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, it's my fault, right? I got to make shit happen. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Actually, it's the way we grow, right? When we do take responsibility of our own shit, actually, we start making shit happen, and it's not going to happen overnight. I had 2 kids, right? And between my wife and I, we try to talk a lot about this concept from Dr. Carol S. Dweck, from Mindset, the book. Talks about growth mindset. versus fixed mindset. I don't know if you read that or heard about it, which is a great book, actually. Not
What's the
only
name of it?
has it Mindset
Mindset.
by,
Okay.
yeah, Mindset by Carol Dweck. Phenomenal book. I strongly recommend it. It's not just for parenting. As a matter of fact, it's not about parenting, but you can take it to different levels, to your personal, professional, spiritual, relational, different facets of your life, which talks about, this, if you do have a fixed mindset. So for example, if I'm bad at this, I'm always going to be bad at this. If I'm talented, therefore I don't need to exert more effort because it means that I'm not talented. It's ironic that I'm making the effort.
Mm-hmm.
So people with fixed mindset, it's like they stunt their growth, right? A growth mindset, it's like, hey, I got this shit wrong right now, but it doesn't mean that I'm gonna be stuck here. If I'm patient, if I'm persistent, if I'm diligent, I can improve. I can make things happen. But they all have the same commonality. It takes time, right? You're not gonna be successful or on the top of that mountain, within a matter of days, weeks, or months. It might take years, and that's fine. But you got to realize that you got to be conscious about the fact that everything's gonna take time. The better things, they're gonna take time, and that's the way they should be, right? Writing a book, maybe you were 20, and then you don't end up writing that book until you're 35. Well, it doesn't mean that you just started writing that book at age 35. No, it's taking you, since you started thinking about writing that book when you were 20, it's taking you 15 years to write that damn book, right? And
Yeah.
it's a process. And it had to be that way because you had to have experiences, you had to have your own scars, so you can talk about the whole process. So you can talk about what it took you to where you are at right now. Talk about your defeats, talk about your victories, and all that. It's supposed to be that way, right? We all want that Hollywood story. We all want that,
To live on the
that
social media highlights. But
right. We all want that, right? Because that's the most, I guess, attractive side of the equation. But nobody looks at what happened behind the scenes. Nobody looks at, the struggles. Everybody looks at for my context, right? They look at the player, being shown off on TV, making that great play. But behind that, there's a whole lot of things that are going on. That player's emotional life, relational, they don't know what they're going through. They don't know the whole process, the sacrifices and all that. And that's fine because everybody's living their own life, right? And their own story. But everybody's looking for that magic pill. We're so used to, especially nowadays. And when I think about it with my kids, it's going to be very difficult for them because they're filled with so much instant gratification. So I want this, boom, I got the click of a button. I want food, boom. I want this, I want
delivered.
that. I want to
Yeah.
buy a car, shoot, grab your cell phone. Who knows what it's going to be, tomorrow. But we're so surrounded by instant gratification that we don't like, or we're not used to delaying the process or delaying the gratification. And it's like I don't know if you've seen or heard about the Marshmallow Test, the infamous Marshmallow Test where they get kids inside a room and they give them a marshmallow, and the person goes away, they're doing the experiment, and they tell the kids, hey, if you don't eat this marshmallow, I'm going to come back and give you two. So you get these kids, they can't wait. Obviously, they start kind of chopping, little pieces until they eat the whole marshmallow. And supposedly the kids that, end up delaying their gratification, they're patient, even though it's killing them inside. They, through time, during their lives, they become a lot more successful adults, and you can nurture that, delayed gratification. Because success, at the end of the day, it's boring, it's monotonous if you want, because it just requires just little habits, actions, decisions, day by day. So for example, reading a book, 10 pages a day or 10 minutes a day. It ain't sexy, man. But by the end of the year, you're gonna have 10 or 15 books read, as opposed to 0 books, right?
Yeah.
Giber is just 10 minutes. It's boring. Well, it's easy to do and it's easy not to do. Those little things. When you see successful people, they have all these little apparently insignificant actions or decisions that they do in their day-to-day routine. To them, it's just second nature, right? It's part of the lifestyle. And when you ask them about, what's your secret formula, it's like, shit, I don't know. It's just, this is what I do every single day, man. I wake up, I exercise, I write. If you're a writer, I do this, I do that, and boom, by the end of the day, you get a compound effect. It becomes an exponential growth. And it's just, that's how it is. And I'm thinking about a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've read it. It's a great book that talks about that concept of compound effect. Also, a literal book by the name The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. He talks about just micro decisions, micro actions accumulate over time, and it's just, I think that's just the way it is. You got to have that stick to itiveness to things if you do want to progress in a certain direction, right?
What happens? Yeah, no, absolutely. Both of the both of those books are great books. I like how they have the longitudinal studies where they actually show you what the differences in habits, and the quality of life and the lifestyle of 2-3 different people because of small compounded just habits. I think it. Breaking into and building a new habit is difficult. First off, you have to be aware of what you want to do, right? The person that you want to become, what do you want to accomplish, what serves you. I think it always goes back to the basics of things. Okay, is this good for my life or is this not good for my life? Yes or no, simple as that. And then you start making decisions based off of that. But when you start to create new habits, that's where we have all the attrition. That's where people fall off the wagon and they'll stick with it. That's why, for example, diets don't work, right? They'll stick with a diet for 2 weeks or whatnot, and then they don't make it a lifestyle. They make it a just a couple of weeks,
like a fad, their own fad.
Yeah. But once you build a habit, a real habit, and you stay consistent with it, you almost, it's hard to break away from it, after a period of time. I used to be the worst morning guy ever. I would not wake up until 9, 10. If I didn't have to go to work or something like that, that was my time. And I would wake up and then have breakfast and then just not know what my day was going to look like. I started shifting from that because I had to, not because it was, some type of virtue. And I woke up one day wanting to be better. No, I just put myself in a hard spot, and then I had to, get out of that, out of that funk. And then I had to apply myself a little better and a little better and a little better. Now I have a morning routine that, it's repetition, like you say. I think you're the first person here that's ever said that success is not sexy, and I couldn't agree more. Success is not it's not sexy. It's boring. It's building stuff day after day, day after day, day after day, but enjoying the whole journey. So now my pill per se is wake up at 6. There's a couple of things that I just allocate my mornings to, and if I don't do that stuff in the mornings, the rest of my day feels funky. It feels like it's not panning out, but it's just at the end of the day, it's coming in refreshing that 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 mindset, and coming back to it and remembering, okay, cool, this is me, this is the person that I want to become, and then falling back on track day in, day out.
Correct. Yeah, and that's just how it is. I'm not saying it is how it is, but I've found that's just that's the way that's worked for me, and I need to backtrack a little bit, because when I was trying to find myself, if there's such a thing as finding yourself, when you're young, you have this, I guess, curiosities. You have a lot of questions about life and this and that. This happened to me at a very early age, right? I was trying to kind of find my place here on Earth or this universe, you know, if you want to take it to a different level. So I found, like I mentioned to you, when I was trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to do with my life, right? I didn't have big role models, right? So I didn't know what direction I wanted to take because I didn't have anything, you know, I guess worthwhile for me to say, hey, this is the mold, right? This is what
Hmm.
I want to follow. And back then, obviously, there wasn't all this stuff that we do have nowadays, a lot of content. You know, you get exposed to different people and you're showing their flashy cars and their mansions, you know, if that's something that you want to emulate, right? But I mean, there's all kinds of different things that you can say, wow, you know, I want to do this shit, you know, because you get on TikTok, you get on Instagram, you get this, you get on a blog or a podcast or whatever. I'm like, wow, you know, this type of lifestyle, that's what I want. You know, there wasn't anything like that. Um, so I was trying to figure out and find answers. So my mom's like, you know, son, you got to read. You got to read because we can't afford things. But in a book, you grab a book and you can fly to different places. You can meet new people and this and that, you know, through a book. And I didn't really understand the concept back then of what much my mom was trying to tell me, you know, how am I going to fly? How am I going to travel with a book? How am I going to meet new people and this and that and, you know, find answers to my questions? Well, you know, I gave it a shot, right? So I started reading books. I was like, holy shit. You know, I started kind of getting hooked to, you know, reading some, you know, self-help books. That's how I started because I was looking for answers, right? So the more I read, I started finding kind of common denominators. You know, people's, you know, this concept appears here on this book with this author, you know, maybe Andrew Carnegie. This concept appears here, the same thing with Seneca or Marcus Aurelius. They're talking about the same thing, but on different, you know, different time frames. I'm like,
It's different times, different cultures, different everything, but the concepts, you know, remain strong.
yeah. So what I try to
Yeah.
do is like I started to kind of connect the dots. Like, all right, so these people talk about purpose, having a purpose. I don't know what having a purpose means. So I guess I better start by, you know, making my purpose find a person, a purpose, right? So I started kind of, you know, I guess emulating different concepts that appear over and over and over, you know, through all this types of different people from different backgrounds. Um, so I started kind of looking for these mental models, you know, from different people. Like, all right, so everything when something happens, an event happens, why do I think and approach a certain circumstance in a certain way? You know, apparently things are not working out for me because I'm not happy where I'm at. I might as well, you know, take this event and think about it in a similar fashion, such as, you know, Epictetus or Marcus Aurelius or Seneca or I don't know, Napoleon Hill or Paulo Coelho, like we mentioned. I'm like, they might have something going on because, you know, they've done things. So I started kind of getting all these concepts um, and putting them and blending them into my own philosophy of life, and things started to click. Not, you know, not just in one day, but I mean little by little. So I started kind of getting hooked on, you know, mental models and kind of eliminating my own mental parasites, right? That we've accumulated over time through our education, through our culture, our idiosyncratic ways, you know, how we've been raised. You know, all those things shape who you are, you know, and a lot of the things don't serve you well when you want to accomplish different things. Maybe they serve you to a certain point, but when you want to escalate to a different level, take it up a notch, or maybe many notches, you know, you got to start thinking in different ways. Your mindset's got to shift, right? Like you find yourself, well, you know, this shit ain't working for me, you know, not waking up early. I see a lot of successful people waking up early. That's a mental model, you know,
Yeah.
shit, you know, this might work for me. I'm going to try it out. And maybe this doesn't work for me. right? But at least I'm gonna give it a shot, do some experiments, and then just kind of iterate. Based on this experiment, did it work out? Did it not work out? It's just the scientific process, right? Making a hypothesis, and then after that, you test it out, this and that, and does it work? Does it not work? Boom, right? Because
Also,
what works for you.
yeah, something huge is give it enough time. Like, don't try it out for 2 days and then just fucking drop it. It's give it
That's
get if you're gonna tap into something new, give it enough time for it to work. Try it out, for at least a few weeks. After the period where you're bored with it, keep trying it out for a bit and see if you get results. See if it's not just you and your lack of effort. See if it's actually whatever you're tapping into that's not panning out.
yeah, like for me, they ask me, I'm in the fitness, sphere, right?
Hmm.
And people ask me a lot of questions all the time through my social media, or when they actually get to meet me in person. They ask me all these kinds of things. I'm like, well, shit, if you don't like, I don't know, doing yoga, well, I'm not going to tell you to do yoga or CrossFit or whatever. I mean, it's whatever, floats your boat, right? Whatever works for you, that works, right? What works for me is not going to work. I can give you recommendations. I can give you that, guidelines. But I don't know you. I don't know how you tick. You gotta try it out. You gotta experiment, and that's how you find algorithms, right? I'm thinking of a book by Ray Dalio called Principles. I don't know if
Oh
you've
yeah, great book.
it's a great book, and it's he mentions in his book.
Dude, I think we have the same library.
Yeah, you got some. You got to show me your books. I got a whole bunch of different books, man. We can go
I think
all over the place.
we've been reading the same stuff.
I know, and I love right now because I'm going through the middle of a just moving to a different place. I took just 8 big boxes filled with books, and I started to think about like shit. I might have just might as well turn into just digital books, because this is I've been moving, and in my context you get to move a whole lot. You
Yeah.
don't know when you're gonna move, so I've been carrying my books to where I go, and they keep accumulating, and it's a compound effect, what we've been talking about. And I have a lot of books back home as well. And I'm starting to think about just kind of just turning digital, even though I do just like the physical, book, right?
Yeah, there's something to it. When you actually hold the book in your hands and you highlight, you write, you take notes, you just make it you.
This is what I did, man. I did a hack on my iPad, which I put a screen protector that mimics like the feel of a paper.
Oh,
I went to that extreme, right, on my iPad, because when I was just reading my Kindle or whatnot, I just wanted to get that feeling of
hmm.
turning the page or whatnot, and it seemed to work for me. Like we've been
Nice.
talking about, whatever works for you. You got to hack your way into things. And like I said, algorithms, man. Like Ray Dalio, okay, let's try it out. Did it work? Did it not work? All right, it worked. Boom, perfect. Let's keep on improving on that and making it better and better and better. Did it not work? All right, let's try out a different venue. And that's how it is on our lives. Um, some things are not gonna work all the time. They might work sometime, but they might not work all the time. Why? Because times change, man. People evolve. You evolve. Concepts, they might evolve. What doesn't change are the principles, right? That's just like the law of gravity. That's not going to change. I guess that's not going to change. So, for example, being grateful. When is that shit going to change, man?
Yeah.
Um, the golden rule. Treat others like you want to be treated. Well, that's a principle. Those are laws. The compound effect, right? Doing little
Yeah.
things over and over, repeat it over time, you get results.
Responsibility. Yeah.
Responsibility. I mean, those are principles. You can change based on like, oh, there's a new method to do this, but methods, they're a dime a dozen. They're gonna keep coming back and forth. But the principles, man, they stay, right? The principles, they're there forever. So I try to stick myself to just the principles. What works, man? It just those things just work. The foundational principles, they just work, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're completely right. And of course strategies and tactics and all of that, they're handy and they're great and you need them, right, to succeed, to level up. But that's going to be coming and evolving along with the times. You can't, I mean, take for example, I mean, if you're looking at a simple business lesson, right? Look at Blockbuster, look at, all those companies that
Oh yeah.
refuse to change their strategies or tactics. Maybe they had, solid foundations and principles, but they didn't jump on the strategies and tactics. Now those they had the repercussions. A lot of them are out of business. These are, Titan companies. However, the new companies built their stuff on the same principles. The strategies and
Right.
tactics change. So those are going to go, down the drain eventually, but the principles are always going to be the foundation, I think. I mean, I think you're exactly on point. Um, I want to tap a little, or talk a little bit about the beginnings. I mean, we both come from humble beginnings, and there's a lot of, I guess, emotional or psychological structures that come along with that stuff, right?
Correct.
Mental challenges, mental barriers. And I mean, back home, we like when people ask me where are you from, I usually say Yuma because nobody knows San Luis, and San Luis is even a smaller town, so it's smaller than Yuma. No, not a lot of people know Yuma, but the place that we come from, it's even a little smaller. And the whole premise that we were talking about this before we started the recording, but we you know the main premise is farmland. You come in and then you work the farmland, and then so your context or the perspective that you have is somewhat limited to the area, to the culture, to what we're seeing right there. And then you made a very very cool point about what kind of inspired you, what kind of drives you now, and you said that you because of a lack of context or perspective, you weren't looking at what you wanted, you were looking at what you did not want. So can we let's shine a little bit of light on that, coming from humble beginnings and then understanding that process, and then how do you go from there to being one of the top high performance coaches for Mexican national soccer league, and going to World Cups and just crushing it that way.
Well, I mean, I guess you take an inverse principle, unconsciously. An inverse meaning that you don't start from the beginning, you start from the end, I guess. And
Hmm.
starting from a process of elimination, also like, I guess, um, Sherlock Holmes, right? All right, this isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't it. When you eliminate everything, you get the essence or the culprit or the key principle, right? So I guess I went through that venue. That was just my venue because I didn't have, like I said, big role models in my life. I mean, I had my parents, which are key and an essential component to my life. I had friends and everything, and I loved them. But to be honest, I didn't have the role models, right? Or a huge horizon to just kind of say, oh, this is, I really like this, I really like to go into this direction, because I can feel it, because I can see it there, it's tangible. When you don't have those models, where to me, it's, I got to start from what I do not want. I don't want my life to end this way, which is valid too. And later on in my life, I read about it on Charlie Munger's Almanac, which is a great book. It's expensive, but I think it's worth it because he talks about a speech, or talk about a speech about how to live. There's a speech in there about, I don't know if it's him or somebody else, that talks about the keys to, or three keys to living a miserable life. Usually it's like, for example, the three key components to living a successful life, right?
Hmm.
But it talks about, the opposite, the inverse of all that, talking about, well, this is how you end up becoming homeless. This is how you end up becoming miserable. This is how you end up, becoming this and that, like all the negatives, so that you take that and say, okay, well, if I don't want to end up this way, then I gotta do the opposite, right?
Not do
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, do not do that. And so that, I guess that was my approach unconsciously. I'm like, I don't know what I do want to become or turn into because I don't have a framework, to
Mhm.
work with. But I do know what I don't want in my fucking life, right?
Mm.
I don't want this. Um, and I'm not saying that is not a worthy um, endeavor, to be working on the fields and this and that. And I think it's honest work, it's hard work, and this and that. And a lot of people enjoy doing that, but it wasn't for me, man. It wasn't for me, and I didn't want that. I wanted to be living a different life, right? So I was like, all right, to end up this way, I have the framework. All
Mhm.
right, I do have that. How can I take that and kind of break it apart and start working from the end in this situation? So I started doing that. So, all right, so to end up in that situation, maybe you don't read books. So I started reading books. To end up in this situation, you don't have a plan. So I started having a plan. To end up in this situation, well, maybe you don't take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. I don't know. So I started taking care of myself, the physical aspect, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Just small elements, started taking the opposite route, knowing that it wasn't going to be just, at a click of a button or at a snap of a finger. It was gonna take time. And like Paulo Coelho on the book The Alchemist, I remember he talks about, when you do have this um, feeling inside of you that you really want something in your life to happen, the universe conspires. There's a conspiracy on your favor. And I'm that type of person that if anything happens, I'm like, the universe is conspiring in my favor. And if this bad thing happened, it's because it's well intentioned, right? Now, if I get fired, it's because something's better for coming from me, and that's the way I've been approaching things. And that's how this is something that I don't quite mention in my life. I started writing and doing collages of what I wanted to visualize in my life, right? So I remember writing about being in the World Cup representing Mexico, and that was many years back. I don't know if I was in college or I was in college. I don't remember. I didn't know, that I was going to take this path of being a fitness coach and this and that back then, but I still wrote it down, right? So I wrote down, and it was like 12, maybe 14 years before that. I wrote down that I was going to be in the World Cup, 2014. I didn't know there wasn't even a city or a country already as a host, right? There wasn't a hosting country, but I said 2014. I better be in a fucking World Cup. I don't know what's gonna take. I don't know if it's gonna happen. But it just that was my framework. So funny enough, the fucking universe conspired on my favor, and I was in Brazil June against Cameroon, and I was wearing the Mexican national team jersey, man. And obviously, my wife, uh, they were watching me on TV or whatnot, and they were playing the national anthem, and I have the footage. I was crying, man. I was crying. There was because I was in my own little world, right? Thinking about it because of all the I guess all the things that I was kind of thinking about back then about having this different attitude towards life when a lot of people were just telling me that you're way out there, man. I mean, why what's this collage, and why do you have this concept, crazy concepts? And that day I was like, that's what I was talking about, right? It made it all worth it.
It all came together.
Yeah, on that moment. And I savored that moment because it just made a lot of concepts that I had and I still have. It made them all true, right? It made the whole process, the whole journey that we're talking about, all worth it. And I'm still thinking about that. what am I aspiring to? Who do I want to become? Because if I was able to do this, I can do a lot of shit, right? And I'm still on that journey, and I'm enjoying who I am. I'm enjoying my process. I'm enjoying the learning that it takes. Because I told my wife, not too long ago, I'm gonna buy myself a fucking private jet, and I don't need a private jet, I think, but I I'm thinking about what it's gonna take for me to become the person that buys a private jet. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not because I don't give a damn about having that. If I do have it, that's perfect. But I mean, I'm more interested in that journey.
Mhm.
What it's gonna take for me. I'm taking up that challenge. I'm pretty sure you've heard about and seen a lot of his stuff, Gary Vee. Well, I started
Yeah.
following Gary Vee a long, long time ago. I went to his book signing on in Phoenix, Arizona. Actually, his first book, Crush It. So I got to meet him, and that was a long time ago, man.
It had to
And
be
I
what,
liked his attitude.
12
I
years
knew he
ago?
was just, huh?
12 years ago, around there?
Maybe it was a little bit
10?
more, man. I
Yeah.
don't remember. So I like where this guy was going. Nowadays Gary Vee, he's like he's big
Yeah.
time. He's exploded, and he's always talked about owning the Jets, owning the
Mhm.
Jets. And I understand where he comes from, why he does it, because he wants to stay in the game, man. Whether he buys it or not, and I'm pretty sure nowadays he can buy the Jets. He has enough money. I don't know. But I mean, what he was talking about, to me was a big lesson. I want to buy the Jets. He's doing that for his mindset to be, well, if I do want to buy the Jets, I got to
Who do
think
I have
big.
to be? Yeah.
Yeah, who do I have to become to be that person that owns a fucking football team, right? So I'm on that same mindset of just how do I stay in the game, at a very high level, and like that cliche, right? Shoot for the moon, you might hit a
Mhm.
star. That's powerful. That's powerful if you want to take it to that level, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And there's so many different ways of just rewiring your mental processes. But I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to having that beacon, right? That lighthouse that's going to point you in the right direction. There's there's no getting there. That's a pill. That's a secret of success. There is no destination. Once you
Right.
get to the top of a mountain, you said it earlier, it's you know what you see? You see more mountains, and they're higher and they're taller, and there's already somebody there that can cut the learning curve, can help you get there and whatnot. But it's it's really coming down to the choice of whether you stay there, and you stop growing, or you continue on. And I think we're all going to hit it inevitably. We're all going to hit a point where we feel like, okay, cool, this is enough. I'm gonna hang out and chill. Maybe not. Like right now, I can't imagine myself not working, not shooting for new things, not aiming for bigger perspectives, or things that I want to go out there and conquer per se, right? But it's I think it's almost like a rite of passage. We move through life through different stages, and before we ever get to that stage, one of the things that it was kind of hard for me to get over with, because my conditioning was wired that way. Everybody else around me was wired that way. Why are you aiming for so much? You already have this and that. I mean, you're doing good here. Why? You're being greedy. And it's not about greed. I think it's really about just having the ability to tap into your full potential. And you know what that is? You know what, bro? Nobody can fucking tell you. Only you can decide. You can choose to make a dent in the world. You can choose to live your footprint and inspire and empower a lot of people behind you, just like you're doing. And have some have the certainty that the ripple effects of what you're doing, they're going to go on for ages and ages and ages. And at the end of the day, like, to me, that's one of the things that matters. But it's really coming down to finding that strength to shift your mindset when you're when you're in a space of almost up against the wall sometimes, and building from that. Now, I guess leading into that, I know one of the biggest things that you do with your players, with anybody that you coach, and especially the teams at high performance levels, is really shifting their mindset. How, and you were talking about like the three principles or the three things that you can start doing to kind of capitalize on things, right? I want to ask you about the three principles that somebody should follow or should implement in their life to have a big, massive shift on their mindset if they feel like they can't do things or they feel limited.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can mention different things, and different things will click with different people.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's things like, for example, when you have a fixed mindset, talking about, being like determinism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, things are the way they are and they're never going to change. Well, shit, if you don't want to, if you don't want to make things happen, well, yeah, things are not going to change. So I guess one of the principles is, not having that fixed mindset, and adopting a growth mindset, saying that, hey, I might be bad at this. For example, I'm not into real estate, but I know I want to get into, and maybe that's a path for me to, get some financial stability or whatnot. And I know it's going to take some time, blah blah blah, this and that. Well, you're never going to get to that level if you remain yourself with that fixed mindset. Well, I, like you know, it was something different, something new, but you decided to give it a shot, and you started on that path, and you kept growing and learning and this and that. That wouldn't happen if you had that fixed mindset. Well, I'm crap at this, I'm crap at that, I'm not good, and this and that. And there are gonna be moments when you feel like that, right? Because you hit a wall and you're like, oh shit, maybe I wasn't born for this, or maybe, I'm not good enough for this, or what, who am I to think that I can be successful in this approach or this path? Well, having a growth mindset, it'll help you, right? Because it allows you to, and it gives you permission to make mistakes, to
Mm-hmm.
have your failures, which to me they're learning paths, and they're much needed. Um, it gives you that permission to just say, hey, such is life, man, and amor fati, right? The love of your faith. It's gonna happen. Love the journey, love the process, love what is, and just keep on going. That's growth mindset. The other one that I can mention is the why, right? The why. You've mentioned the why. People ask you, why do you do this? Why do you do this? Well, one, it's very simple for me. Why? Because I fucking can, right?
Because again.
Because I can, and that's it. Obviously, you're gonna have your own reasons, to make shit happen, but having a why, it gives you perspective, it gives you some ground, and when those difficult moments do come, not if they come, because they are gonna come, you have your strong why. And there's a great book by Simon Sinek, called "Start with Why." And I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure you read it. And I urge entrepreneurs and just people in general to read those kinds of books, because it's just it's common sense, but at the same time, for a lot of people, it's not common sense, right? Well, why do I have to start with why? Well, why? Because it'll help out all the other things, all the pieces of the domino kind of fall in its place, because then you can take care of the what and the how,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why am I doing this? Well, if you ask me, why do I do what I do, it's attached to my purpose. So why do I do what I do? Because my whole purpose in life is to find the best version of myself. What is that version? I don't know, because there's
That's
no
what I'm trying to
ceiling. There's no
find it.
scientific. There's no scientist that tells me, hey, this is your ceiling. I'm.
Yeah.
Who are you to tell me that's my ceiling, right? Um, so that's my purpose, to find the best version of myself. To find your best version, you got to step outside your comfort zone. You got to grow. You got to be courageous. You have to forge a character, certain type of character, and that doesn't end just there. Best version for what? To serve others, right? find my best version or seek my best version so that I can serve others in their own journey. And do I have to be there physically to serve others? No, because through your example, that's going to be your message, man. It's contagious, either way, good or bad, right? So if I'm constantly seeking to find that better version of myself, that's probably going to help out somebody. That's going to probably resonate with somebody. That's going to probably make an echo in somebody else's life to say, hey, shit, I want to emulate that. Or I like this, concept about this guy that I'm going to apply into my life. Now you're planting the seeds of your own essence, right, in other people's lives. So that's my why. That's my why. Now, can you have, there's all kinds of different whys. Yes, something that resonates with you. So a big why for, somebody could be, just buy your mom a house, or be the best role model for your kids, or help build a community. It's just whatever rocks your boat, but make it, a big ass why, right? You gotta have a why.
You can't reach it in 2 days. Yeah.
Right. Like, for example, Gary Vee, we mentioned him before, why, and I'm pretty sure one of his whys, he's got different other whys, but maybe, his why is because he wants to buy the Jets. That's his why. And he makes it a game, right? On his mind, saying that, hey, if I want to buy the Jets, I can't just be a sissy, with this challenge, ahead of me. I got to keep on going because on my mind, I need to buy the Jets. I need to. It's not going to happen if I don't, that there's no other resort. I have to buy
the guy that buys the Jets does not back down from that kind of challenge.
Exactly.
Yeah, rewiring your mindset to that persona.
And another one, because I can mention different things, but I mean, I got constraints. You mentioned 3, so I got constraints. The other one is identity. Identity, because the way you label yourself, it makes a huge difference, right? If I label myself as being a mediocre person, an average person, somebody not worthwhile or something like that, obviously that's your identity, man. Okay. But if you label yourself as an overachiever, or I'm that type of person that, fill in the blank. I'm that type of person that, boom, never backs down from a challenge. I'm that type of person that it speaks out loud, with his virtues and values and his own character, to the world. He's not afraid of this. Your identity makes a whole difference. Maybe it's not out there yet. Maybe other people don't see it, but who gives a shit? You got to see it. You got to feel it. You got to taste it. You got to live it, breathe it, right? You got to live your own identity. And maybe I like a book by David Goggins. You probably heard of him before. The book is called Can't Hurt Me. I strongly recommend you guys read that book, Can't Hurt Me.
He talks about that one I haven't read.
Oh, it's a great book, man. You should read it. And also, do me a favor, follow him on social media, on Instagram, David Goggins.
David Goggins.
Very cool story. He's a Navy SEAL. And cool. But what I do like about him in his book, within different concepts that he talks about, is like the David Goggins, like the earlier David Goggins. That guy, he was created by society, right? Fucking fearful, or he was fearful. He was not happy with his own skin, all these kinds of different things. He didn't try things and blah, 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 this and that. That was David Goggins. Now, this version, the Goggins, that's what he mentions himself or talks to himself about. He's like, the Goggins, that guy, I build him myself, right? So to me, I was talking the other day I was having a conversation with a person the other day, and I was pretty much telling them about my older version, right? I'm like, that older version, I'm really happy with him. I love him, and I'm very grateful because he brought me, to a certain point, but I don't need them anymore. So I got to put them in a closet, or whatnot. And I have to create a different version of myself to what I do want to accomplish. I need another Giber, for
Mm.
example, because that's not. There's a book called "What Got You Here Won't Get You There,"
Mm.
and a lot of times you do feel like you've made it, and it's a wrong assumption, because you're like, that person that got you there, boom, it's always going to serve you good, and it's always going to be helpful, for you to achieve this and that. But no, I see this all the time with my players. They get to a certain level, especially like the young guys. They get to a certain level, and they're like, okay, I made it, I'm in the first team, blah blah blah, this and that. No,
They
man, you're just
plateau,
starting. And like closers, let's say for example, like Michael Jordan, um, you know, Serena Williams, you know, they 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 know that they have to constantly reinvent themselves, right? They gotta, make minor tweaks here and there, or major ones, so they can improve their craft, right? And that's a better and bigger version of themselves. They're not stuck with just, you know, being the Serena Williams when she started, back in the day. No, you keep evolving and find that best version. So that's why they are who they are, right? In different realms, not just in the sports world, but in different worlds, entrepreneurship, different worlds. To me, identity is key. It's a key component to this equation. Realizing who you want to become, and being that person, right? And sometimes it works. The fake it till you make it. That works. Why not? If it works for you, then make it happen, right?
yeah. On a TED talk a while back, that you mentioned that, I heard and I can't remember the name of of the person that was speaking, but she said something that jumped at me. You fake it until you become it. And that, I mean, that carried so much weight, because yeah, it's just like you telling yourself, okay, who's the person who I need to be to buy that jet? I mean, you're just wrapping yourself around the idea of that person that you need to become. And one speaking of identity, one of the things that's almost like a red flag of whenever that identity shift needs to kick in, is, it's, at least for me in the professional side, it's if I'm feeling too comfortable and I haven't felt the challenge, or I haven't felt growth in a period of time, say 3 months, 6 months, or whatnot, and I'm just kind of coasting through things, I start getting antsy. I start getting, okay, cool. I mean, am I missing something? What am I doing? And I know that's not, healthy or sustainable in the long run. But right now, like when you're in the middle of your creative period, it's one of the red flags that you can look at and just be aware, right? And then jump into that next level of your identity, like you're saying, and that's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable as fuck, because you're going to have to be, own new skills, and then you have to become a new person, do things that you're not used to doing, then just, kind of put it all together and start leveling up little by little. But you have to think about the long run. Not instant gratification does not have a role in all the stuff that we're talking about right now, man. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's why, to me, it's very important to talk about the process, because the
Mhm.
process, it depends on where you see yourself. It's, and I'm pretty sure, if I can add like a fourth one to the
Yeah,
equation,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like thinking big, right? You got to think big, and thinking big, it's like you're not just making yourself a favor, you're making others a favor, because what Marianne Williamson, in the book Return to Love, she has a poem in there that talks about, your living small does not serve the world, right? Your living small does not serve the world. So it's our moral obligation to live large, right? And live it well. Okay. Now, when you're thinking big, obviously you got to think in different terms, stepping outside your comfort zone, thinking outside the box, being um, uncomfortable with being average. And I was thinking the other day of just kind of, creating t-shirts. You can do that about, allergic to average, right? Because I do really get really uncomfortable when I start just kind of getting too comfortable, like you mentioned before.
Hmm.
Um, I try to recognize that feeling, embrace it as a good sign, right? Of there's a change to come in the near future. But if you don't have a reference or a mindset of shit, the type of person that I am, talking about identity, is the type of person that thinks big, right? All right, so I associate myself with a person that thinks big. Okay, thinks about big. Why? Well, I have a why. Well, why? Because I want to buy. I want to find that best version of myself, so I can serve others in a major scale. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
perfect. And you start making associations based on that, and that's it's really important to have that change of identity, to start with that, to start with a why, to think big, to want to think big, to have ambition, right? Because it'll drive you to different places. It'll get you to places where you meet different type of people that are not within your same context or your same environment. Because, all right, now where you're living, obviously you're meeting different people. You're associating yourself with, maybe high level players and this and that. Back where you were living, a very small town, there's very limited opportunities.
Right.
You can't associate with that type of people. If you're thinking big, you need to associate with that high level type of players, high performers, and you got to step outside that comfort zone. There's a saying that you are the average of the five people that you surround yourself with, and I think that's really true. And there might be some scientific points about it, and I'm pretty sure there is, where people get there and they're like, yeah, there's a formula, that, that establishes that, yes, there is a fact about that cliche, right? That you're the average of the five people that you associate with. And I think that's really true.
It is. I
Um,
mean, it is because it almost becomes like a think tank. Um, having a conversation in a pool like that, it's a very, very different conversation than elsewhere. When you start connecting with those, and you can pick and choose, right? Like, for example, it's one of the things that I thought about too. Like, okay, the five people that I associate with, and I've heard people say that no, you want to cut your old relationships and friendships loose if they don't serve you, and I'm not on that I'm not on that boat because I feel like we all have different needs,
right,
and or everybody has needs at different levles, right? For example, I have very dear and loving friends that they fulfill me at a personal and connection level, but then I also have another group of people that are they're just elite, they crush it, and they bring me up to that level of performance where I want to be. So it's really important to kind of keep that awareness, but yeah, and influence in yourself intentionally through your
right,
relationships and through your friendships, as opposed to just hanging out and then going with the flow of things and kind of
right,
becoming one more wave in the ocean. It's a big difference. But if you think about it, bro, it really takes up the majority of our over time. If you're hanging out with five people on a regular basis, and you add the time that you're asleep, and you add the time that you're actually reading, you add the time that you're like, your percentage is going to be outweighed by the influence that those people have on you. So it's absolutely, I mean, it's if the think is not big in that space, yours is going to be limited by default.
yeah. And back in the day, for example, and still to this day, well, I didn't have like major, like I said, role models, and my friends, I love them, and I still have great relationships and great friendships. Um, and if I didn't have any like physical people that I could associate myself with, I had books,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those were my friends. Um, on a different level, on a different scale, because I pretty much was absorbing, their mindsets. Those are my friends. Until this day, I can say that books, they're a great way to associate yourself with people that are in a different level without having to actually know them. end without them being alive, right? Because I like the Stoic philosophy and the Stoics, like the pioneers. Obviously, they've been long gone, right? But I can still have conversations with them, right? They can be my friends, so I can get them into my circle of influence. When I do, let's say, for example, I guess it was Da Vinci that did this type of exercise where he had his own like staff, uh, and whenever he needed to get some advice, he would go into this mental framework to ask advice from like different mentors in his life, and kind of visualizing and meditating, to a certain type of problem that he was having at the time to find a solution. So I guess in a way, that's I have my own guides and mentors. Like I go back to Marcus Aurelius, I go back to Gandhi, I go back to Madre Teresa, I go back to Jesus. So when I do Einstein, Tesla, I go back to these guys depending on the situation that I do have, and you get some answers, right? Those are your friends. They don't have to be alive. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so I guess you got to find ways to make shit happen, right? It goes back to having that 100% responsibility. But Heber, I don't have the means that you have. I don't have the popularity that you have. I don't have the certified thing on my Instagram account like you or whatever. Like shit. I started somewhere, and I'm not saying all this because I'm bragging or anything like that, but I mean just to kind of illustrate a point, to say, hey, you don't need all this kinds of the bells and whistles, like we say. Just it's like it's all on us, right?
Mm-hmm.
No excuses, because the world is filled with a lot of excuses, and getting yourself to be victimized by your own circumstances, saying that, hey, poor me, I'm nothing goes my way because of this, because of that, because of my parents, because of society, because of the president, this and that. That's all a bunch of bullshit, right? Because the president is not going to fix your life situation. You got to make it work. You got to make it right. You got to fix it. That's why
Right.
your identity has to be from a place that you become the CEO of your own life. Nobody else, not your kids, not your wife. You know what I mean? So you got to make shit happen. Well, I'm not a creative person. Well, find a creative person that complements your situation and make it happen. But just don't lose sight of what you want to accomplish, of what you want to become, because there's no excuse for you not to become the person that you want to become. And maybe the objective that you have, or the goal that you have, is set in stone and it's really fixed. Maybe you don't get exactly to where you want to be, but shit, you might get close,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, you got to take into account and consider, for example, I'm 40 years old, I want to become a professional basketball player, right? That's not going to happen. You got to be realistic too. I mean, you have to have realistic goals. I don't like realistic, right? But I mean, you do have to have some common sense and be conscientious about the fact that, well, shit, at my age, if I do really want to become an NBA player, well, that shit ain't gonna happen, man. But I can think in different, in different situations where I do have access and the potential to, to do certain things within that realistic framework, right?
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, yeah, the word realistic it can be a little heavy, but at the end of the day, we have to look at it. One thing that happens too, man, is that most often than not, if you ask the average person, what do you like, what do you enjoy, what do you do for you? Most people will give you answers that link to something else, something outside of them. So they don't really the awareness of what's them doesn't really come from within. It comes, oh, I love doing, going to the park, for my kids, or I love doing this for, so and so, or I like doing this because it's good for my job, or I like doing this for. But having that lack of awareness on what is us, and painting that picture from within, like you said earlier, you can't give something that you don't have. You can't give love if you don't have love. You can't give happiness, or make somebody else happy if you don't have happiness from within. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with vision, with direction, with the sense of the life that you want to live. If you don't have an idea of that, it's hard to get it from somewhere else, somewhere outside of you. And it takes work. It takes sitting there and meditating on it, and then doing all kinds of stuff that may work differently for different people. But that's the beautiful part of about each one of our journeys, I think. The self-discovery process, the idea that we are allowed to fail. We are granting us permission to fail day in and day out, and learn from those failures and become better, and be better tomorrow than we were today. It's part of that process. And you don't wake up one day just being a badass and taking down World Cups and shit. It doesn't happen. It's a process. Like you said.
Yeah, so, it doesn't happen, man. Like, talking about mental models. So for example, you win or you learn. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, like the mental model for that is you win or you lose, right?
Yeah.
And when you take that model, it's not going to serve you as much as I win or I learn. So with my guys, it's like, hey, we took a loss. It's a learning situation, man. What can we learn from this situation? What did I, how can I improve upon this? Because when you take it with this concept of just, well, we lost, right? Mm-hmm. Boom, that's fixed. Yes, the result is fixed. Yes, but your mental framework, that needs to change. And it's just minor tweaks like that. I'm not a mental skills coach. I'm not a sports psychologist, but I'm a human being, right? and I deal with human nature around me, and I got to make this guys click at a different level, because they already have the talent, right? I'm not going to learn. I'm not going to teach them how to kick a ball, or stop a ball if you're a keeper or whatnot. But it's, to me, going back to my purpose, right? My why, best version to help others. Well, my best vehicle for me to accomplish that purpose or that why is this title of performance coach, right? That's my perfect excuse to get to the other much important to me, foundational or purposeful intentions, right? Yeah. So to me, it's more than just helping out these guys to be better physically. I might be a great performance coach, right? I might be the best in the world at that, X's and O's types of things. But if the player or the players or the group of players are not convinced, I don't, motivate. I don't, light a fire on them. All the strategies, all the tricks and everything, they're not going to work.
Yeah.
Right. I have to tap into just like a more foundational and primitive aspect of them, a very psychological and emotional situation on them, so that I can influence, so that they can become their better versions. And that's, I guess, that's the trick of what I do. That's the more complex type of situation for me. And I was, I heard a TED talk as well about this guy that directed an orchestra, which is, I don't remember exactly the name, but he's a very well-known individual. And like the biggest lesson in leadership for him is that if he doesn't see fire on his students, he's not doing his job. Right? He needs to see fire, and that's his responsibility. How do I, as a leader, how am I able to tap into their lives so that I can influence them and turn that fire on their eyes so that they can find that best version of themselves? That's my mental model as well, right? So I've been mentioning mental models because they do make a difference. So when I was kind of trying to find, answers to my life, I was like, well, what's another common denominator? What makes the difference between people that are reaching extraordinary heights and just being ordinary, just like myself? Well, what's the difference? Well, I mean, they have, fingers just like myself. They have a head, and then inside they have a brain, and there's a lot of similarities, right? What's the biggest common denominator for me that I found is that mindsets. They think differently. So, okay, well, what about mindset? And, because I know this, that's common sense. And, they think differently. All right, well, yeah, Steve Jobs thinks, used to think differently. And, and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and all those guys, Elon Musk, they think differently. Yeah. But let's go like way deep into, all right, it's just thinking differently. Well, mental models. It's like Charlie Munger, guy works with Warren Buffett. He's a brilliant guy, and he talks about mental frameworks. About getting different concepts from different disciplines and applying them because they all integrate. They're all useful to make decisions. So, for example, a mental model of there's an event, a crisis, economic crisis, or there's take for example, right now, our situation, the pandemic situation, COVID and all this, well, that's an event, right? And it's not just not a kind of event that just whatever, right? It's a big event happening in our lives right now, and it's impacting our lives, and in different ways, and this and that. Well, how do you, with your own mental model, how do you approach it? What's your perspective? What's your interpretation? That to me has been really fascinating. How do I interpret the event that's happening in my life to, I guess, alchemize it and use it to my advantage, right? And it's not easy because, a lot of people is like, shit, COVID, it ruined my life. That's your mental model.
I'm going to sit there on the couch and not do anything because I can't.
Yeah. Right. Well, might as well, that's
yeah.
A blessing because I can get to sit around all day on my ass and just watch Netflix and just get fat. That's a mental model.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference. So how do I identify different mental models so that I can potentiate my life, and, exponentially change my life for the better so that I can impact other people's lives, not just others, but obviously myself. So I've been very curious about mental models, grabbing them from different people and applying them to my life.
At the end, it's a framework. It's a framework of everything that we do, right? So we have mental processes that come in and kick in, and they're built, based on our paradigms that we carry from lifelong learning. But we can choose. I think one thing that happens with people who are striving to achieve, it really comes down to what you said earlier about having that growth mentality, and seeing opportunity where others see dead ends. For example, COVID, right? You sit there and then, oh shit, you know what? My business, or my hours are getting cut at work. There's not a lot I can do because of whatnot. Most people, unfortunately, will sit and dwell on that when a few are going to use that opportunity to say, holy crap, I mean, there's a lot going on. What can I do to come in and shift it? What can I, where can I take back some of this potential power that I'm losing to this situation, and apply it in a way that's going to help me, in my future come in. And I think that's where the magic really, comes in and sits in. We don't have to have all the answers. We don't have to have, the exact blueprints of how things are going to pan out. I think massive imperfect action is one of the things that carries us through the learning process, and really, hitting those levels of achievement. So yeah, I mean, having those mental models and really, it's almost like the what do you call it? The index of a book, right? you have mental model, you go back to that, section of the book, and then you start reading it, and then you start building on that, and
Yeah.
it creates the backbone of your thought process. So yeah, man, thank you so much. It's been a blast. We've talked about a ton of stuff, and I know we can go on for hours, so I definitely want to do this a second time if you're game.
Oh yeah.
If let me ask you one. This is my favorite question. Before we start signing off, it's if you were walking down the street and you were to run into your 17-year-old self, what would you tell that kid?
That's a great question. That's a very interesting question. Um, I guess be patient on the process, because I tend to be
Mm,
the type of person, um, of knowing myself, that I like things to get done fast, like tomorrow, right, or yesterday, and that to me has been, I guess, um, a double-edged sword, right? It depends on how you see it. Sometimes being a lot more patient in the process, it helps out a whole lot. But sometimes you take the route of Grant Cardone, right? The 10x rule of saying,
yeah.
hey, what's going to take you 10 years, make it happen in 1 year, figure it out. It depends of when you can use it in certain situations, and it serves you to go fast and be really impatient, and sometimes it serves to be patient, right, and just kind of trying to figure out the difference between the two. Another one that I could probably tell myself, it's directly from the Stoics. It's just like a pillar of the Stoic philosophy, saying that it associated to me with the serenity prayer, of just taking into account the things that are not under your control,
Hmm.
and having the strength to figure out and work out the things that you do have control, and change them if they need change, right? And for the most part, the things that are out of your control, they're the things that we're focused on the most, ironically, right? So for example, I don't know, the weather, or fucking people on Instagram, or different places tell me, criticizing this and that. That shit. It's just under my control,
Hey, if you
right?
don't have haters, you're not doing everything right.
Exactly. And that's fine. I live happy, and I embrace the whole situation. I laugh at it, and it's, to me, it's a great compliment, because fuck, coming from a very small town, like 40,000 people population, including cats and cows and chickens,
Yeah,
right?
dogs.
I'm like, now, they're organizing like a freaking, like, a revolt against myself and this and that. I'm like, shit, that's a compliment, right? Even though that's not the type of, I guess, publicity that I
Yeah.
want, but at the end of the day, it's just publicity, and there, it's around myself, and I'm like, whoa, shit, I thought, that's awesome, right? Take it in a different light. But I mean, um, being patient, being impatient. I kind of lost my train of thought where I was going with with myself. Um, Knowing when to be patient, knowing when to be impatient, knowing what you can control and when you can't control. That to me has been a great pillar in my life. Because hey, there's a lot of shit going on, and there's a lot of things that are going to happen, and you're not going to have control of it. And a lot of times, like, our natural instinct is just to grab uh, control of the situation, right? That's just
Hmm.
really primitive in ourselves. That's ingrained in our DNA. And you get frustrated, you get depressed. Sometimes you feel yourself with anger at situations that you can't control. So I can't control, I guess, my kids, of who they are, what they want to be, and this, and I don't want to control them, right? I just want to be part of their journey, and I'm happy that I've been chosen to be part of that journey. The weather, a player, the fans. I can't control those types of situations. But what I what I can control is just, how I think, um, the decisions that I make, the actions that I take. I can control that. So I try to, focus a whole lot more on that 99.8% of the time. Sometimes it's difficult to obviously not focus on the things that you can't control. For example, sometimes here in Mexico City, traffic is the worst. So, you, you get in road rage, right? You have that potential. But to me, it's just an exercise every single day. Like Marcus Aurelius, he mentioned in his book Meditations, hey, you just got to be aware that you're going to go out today into the world, and you're going to find yourself with all kinds of different situations, all different kinds of people. Some are assholes, some are kind, and this and that. Just realize that, man. But you can't be mad at other people, or you can't hurt other people, because you're hurting yourself, because we're all in this together. You're a citizen of the world. And I'm like, those types of things, they're just reminders, right? And to me, thinking about my 17-year-old self, I'm immature, I'm unexperienced. Those types of concepts, they can hurt, they can help me out a whole lot. But at the same time, it's like, hey, listen, just take your time, man. It'll come, right? Because I can kind of preach to my 17-year-old self, and what if you think about it, what were you doing when you were 17? You're thinking all kinds of different directions. You didn't give a fuck about many different things, and like your own, I guess, worries were just like stupid, dumbass worries, that we do worry, like in real life situations nowadays, like trying to feed your family, putting food on the table, and this and that. Those are real life, situations, right? Back in the day, 17 years, like shit, what do I have to worry about? So I guess, at the same time, just, hey, take your time, right? It'll come to you as well. Just keep yourself on the path. Stay away from bad influences. But there's a dichotomy on that, because if you don't know the bad, you can't know the good, and vice versa, right? That's a virtuous mean, right? The yin and the yang.
Salt and pepper, man. The salt and pepper of life. I think that's where all those experiences come in and play, to our development. And the good, the bad, and then taking all that stuff and then growing with it as a person is really I made a ton of mistakes, and I know I wouldn't be the person I am now had I not made those mistakes. So if I were to go back and rewrite it, I don't think I would change anything really because I'm pretty happy with the life that I live. I'm pretty happy with the person that I've become. And when we sit back and we look at life that way, as a sequence of experiences, as opposed to losses and failures and wins and peaks and valleys and and look at the overall context, we end up in a more collected space of happiness and fulfillment.
Yeah, so, we got to remember that we're the sum of like everything that's happened in the past.
Yeah.
Now, in your life situation right now, if you have positive dividends, that's awesome, and that means keep on going, making it better. But if you're on like the red side, below the lines, well, you got to readjust your course, your course, right? If you don't like where you're at right now, you got to make some adjustments. You got to redirect your path, and that's going to be part of life, and that's fine. We can't live in a bubble, of just expecting nothing bad to happen to us. And one of the things that I do, like as a parent, what I do wish for my kids is so that they can have some hard ass situations, and because that's the way they're gonna grow. I don't want them to just not have anything bad happen to them, because that's not serving them well. And obviously, when they hurt themselves, it hurts me, it hurts my wife and everything. But we're conscientious that that shit, it's much needed, right? That's the medicine that nobody wants to take. That's the venom. If it's in small controlled doses, they're good. It's a good stressor. It's a stressor, and it's something's gonna happen inside you, but it's gonna make your growth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just part of life, right? Life wouldn't be the same if it's just, we can be in an island and just kind of drink pina coladas, and that's not gonna make things happen. And I prefer it that way, right? Because I'll get fucking bored as shit,
Yeah,
just not doing anything.
it's fun to handle for a little bit, and then you just gotta get back into it. The overindulgence, I think, kills the magic in a lot of things. So awesome, man. Yeah, thank you so much, Hubert. It's been great. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you or reach out to you, where's the best place to catch you?
Yeah, mainly right now I'm building my own site, but it's through my Instagram. That's
Okay.
fine. And just my name at Giber at Heber, and you can send me a message in there, and or subscribe or follow me or whatnot, whatever that is.
Do the thing, do the
Yeah, do
thing.
your thing, whatever whatever pleases you. Yeah, yeah, that's fine with me, and that will be awesome. Awesome to just kind
Cool.
of continue the conversation there, and maybe something in there will click with you. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think definitely. I mean, we've talked about so many different things, and I had a lot of respect before this conversation about everything that you're doing, and especially understanding your journey and the origins, because I mean, we both come from the same root. But now, I mean, that's exponential. Understanding your outlook on life, the way that you come in and then you approach mindset. It's unbelievable, man. And it's not. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to have all kinds of crazy things. If you have the common sense to look at resources like books and make yourself the creator of your life, right? Use it as an experiment to see what works, what doesn't work, and have the ability to shift from one to the other. And you're doing an amazing job. You're inspiring a lot of people, and me included. So I thank you for that. And yeah,
Thank you,
once
man.
more, man, thanks for stopping by and spending some time with us. I definitely want to do this again. So we gotta link up here pretty soon, and then figure it out, because I think we can go on for hours on a lot of topics. So
Yeah, let's do it, man. But we got to do it live. We got to do it live, obviously,
oh,
with a
I'm
good
game.
distance. In your own set, that would be nice. If not, we can do it on a different platform, or
Beautiful.
whatever serves. So yeah, man. 2 + 2 = 4. And when I mention that to people, is like, it's just like you said, common sense. 2 + 2 is not 5, it's not 3. It's just math, man. And if you want to take it to a philosophical level, like, for example, 2 + 2 = 4. Well, I mean, you be kind to people, and you're gonna get kindness back, man. That's 2 + 2 = 4, right? Do the
Yeah.
things right every single day, 1% better, and shit, your life will turn around in an exponential way for the better, right? You know, the opposite will happen too. 2 + 2 = 4. You keep doing bad shit will happen. 2 + 2 = 4. And I always use a hashtag on my social outlets, where I say hashtag sin llorar,
Sin llorar.
or llorar, don't cry, which is the same as, don't whine, don't complain, don't make excuses. I took that from Coach John Wooden from UCLA. Um, and it's sin llorar is just, for example, quit whining, quit your bitching, do the work, man. Just
do
get
the
on it.
work.
Amor fati, another phrase that from Marcus Aurelius, memento mori, which is just remember that you'll die, man.
Yeah.
And you can take it in a very depressive type of fashion, or you can take it to like, oh shit,
Got
my
a
days are
light a
counted.
fire on my ass.
Yeah, I better make things count. I gotta tell my kids that I love them. I gotta live in the moment, because I don't know. I can't be arrogant enough to think that I'm gonna be immortal. I'm just a mortal, man.
Yeah.
And my life could be taken away tomorrow, in a week, years from now, who knows? But memento mori, and I have like a medallion, with these reminders, just so that I keep just making things in a common sense way. 2 plus 2 equals 4.
2 + 2 = 4, man. I love it. I love it. Well, we're definitely gonna do this again, and yeah, I'd be down to. I'd be so game to do it live, and then get some comments, get people into conversation, and then I don't know. Let's see what happens. But we gotta do it again and link up soon. So. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation, because it's been epic. I mean, we went down the road of cliches and mindset and all kinds of stuff that really makes sense when you put it all together. So I'm pretty excited about part 2. Yeah, you got it here at the CEO Pulse Podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Boom. It's a wrap. You just got a backstage pass to the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Make sure you follow us on YouTube and iTunes, and check out our website at ceopulse.com. Stay tuned, stay focused. You got this.